My favorite thing about this Bill Russell picture is there's 4 rings not pictured. My man's got 11 of them. There's only 7 in that picture right there. So I don't know if he's got the other ones on his toes, if they're somewhere in a drawer somewhere. But Bill Russell, 11 championships. He tweeted this out. You're getting closer. He got the you're wrong, but that's right. He just celebrated his 87th birthday. Got other things going on. True GOAT, Bill Russell. Salute to you, my friend.
Hey, 2 suggestions from your old buddy Kevin Wiles. If you want great highlights, follow Kendall Baker on Twitter, who posts like top 5 highlights. And if there's small children watching the show, please avert their eyes because blammo! Oh my goodness, this is one of the most violent blocks I have ever seen. This starts to look more like a volleyball game. Boom! Spike looking like St. John Smith on the beach volleyball tour. Fantastic job, Kane Henry, Jacksonville State. Blammo! My favorite block of the year. Fantastic.
That's great.
That's nicely done. Plus the St. John Smith reference. All right, guys. While I was home reading Harry Potter to my children last night, Brandon was hanging out with Cam Newton on his I Am Athlete podcast. We're like the same, me and you, Brandon. We lead the same lives. The hot topic for them, though, Cam's future. Brandon, Cam told you he'd be happy to come back to New England. Is that what the Patriots want, though? Who knows? Take us through what Cam told you last night.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I had an opportunity to spend all day with Cam from, when he landed, coming in from Atlanta, working out, then going into, the podcast that evening. And it was awesome to be around him. Everything that we talked about early on in the year and the things that were coming out from New England as far as him being the first one in, last one out, how everyone loves him. He was a great leader. Like, you could see it right away. But there was 3 things that I wanted to get to, and I was really intentional with this when I sat down with him. And I think everybody wanted to hear is like, what the hell happened, Cam? Pre-COVID, we're talking about, Wiles, you're the one that asked the question. I think it was week 3. Should New England be considering extending him? Like, that was a debate on this very show. So pre-COVID, first game of the season against the Miami Dolphins, 15 rushes, 75 yards. He didn't have his legs under him, but he looked like, oh, wow, like this looks like the old Cam. And then the second week, he goes out to Seattle, Sunday Night Football. Our guys calling the game. He throws for 397 yards. And it comes down to the very end. They do a quarterback sweep left. He doesn't get it, gets stuffed. And then there's this whole debate about that Josh McDaniels called the right call. He stands on the podium, stands up for him. And so, like, that's where we were. Then all of a sudden you get hit with COVID-19. And then it seems like the wheels fell off. So that was one of the things that I wanted to hear from him, like, what happened? The other thing was, what's next? And then the last thing is, what's going on with the shoulder? Reports coming out, like, are you declining? Are you done? So the very first thing, when you talk about COVID, he just said, like, New England don't stop. Like, the Patriot way, everything we talk about is like, when I came back, new terminology, new game plan. He's like, when I get out there before, white 80, and he's at the line, it's clicking. He feels good about it. And then when he came back, it's like, white 80, what the heck's going on, and not really feeling comfortable in the system. And he started talking about, and I think these things came out, as far as needing that time and giving himself that time, not coming in thinking that, oh, yeah, I can be Superman in the classroom. So that was really telling for me. And then as far as what next, I'm like, can you see yourself going back to New England? And he's like, yeah, absolutely, loved it. But he was really, I would say, vulnerable and really, he pulled back the curtain on the New England way. He pushed back on certain things. And it was interesting to see him talk about Bill Belichick, talk about Josh McDaniels, talk about the Patriot way, talking about, how do you go from 20 years being in one system with the GOAT, Tom Brady, and then insert me and then try to do that. So it was really interesting. And the whole arm thing, Kevin, he feels like it comes down to understanding the offense, and it was more mental than physical. Him understanding he was playing bad and about to be taken out. So awesome time with Cam. A lot we learned.
Okay, so I can't tell. First of all, I'm going to watch the heck out of this podcast. I'm going to watch it on YouTube, and then I'm going to listen to it at the same time. That's how excited I am. And just it's going to be a surround sound experience for me.
Of course you are. That's your team.
This is what I'm confused about the whole thing, Nick. The guy was benched a few times. He had 4 games where he threw under 100 yards. He had threw for 8 interceptions. Just for the record, that's fewer than Dak Prescott. And overall, like, I get it that he was new in the system, but like, so was Justin Herbert. They weren't running the Oregon system, and he did fine. And then the eye test wise, Nick, I got 2 issues. Sometimes the balls are just coming out and like landing on the ground. He just doesn't look great. And then other times it's like this Texans play, if we can show, it's like, oh, Cam Still's got it. I mean, granted, the throw looks a little laborious. That's what I'm confused by. So there's a lot of other options out there, quarterback-wise, and it just seems I can't put a finger on it. Like, do I want Cam to be my starting quarterback? So you're our resident GM. You can make the call for me.
I don't know, Wilds, that I agree with you that right now there are a lot of other options out there. Like, who are we talking about? Jimmy Garoppolo is the one everyone's going to mention. Yeah. But San Francisco's got to get another, like, a different domino has to fall first for that, right? I don't think you're super excited about starting whichever quarterback you could draft 15th overall. So then who are we talking about as other options? Here is why I think Cam will be back with the Patriots, Brandon. That's the only team left he has some sweat equity with. It's the only team left.
Really?
He might have the, in this regard, I think Cam has some benefit of the doubt with New England because Belichick clearly liked him. Belichick clearly liked and respected and appreciated how he handled himself. It's why even though he would take him out of games, he would always then make him the starter for the following week. So I think his margin of error and his grace period is bigger in New England than if he goes anywhere else except for, I guess, maybe Washington. Like, because Ron Rivera's there. But Ron Rivera could have brought him to Washington with him last year and didn't. I don't think, Brandon, you obviously were with him. But that's why.
Yes, I mean, clearly we all talked about that. But that's why, I pushed back on you when you said the only team with sweat equity, because when we talked about, going back to New England and what are the chances, he actually says, like, what opportunities did I have? I had no other options when you talk about last year going to New England. And then we talked about moving forward because there was reports like, is retirement on the table? He said, hell no. And then we talked about Washington, and he lit up when we talked about Riverboat Ron. He definitely did. So I think New England is a viable fit, a viable option, and also Washington. And I do want to say this, Wilds, because when you talk about Justin Herbert, when you talk about Justin Herbert and as far as the offense, that was one of the things that we talked about as far as the Patriot way. Yeah, I had Fred Taylor, who was also sitting there. He was a part of the Patriot way. You had Ocho Cinco, your guy was out there. He was a part of the Patriot way. So we start diving into how complex this offense is. I had Josh McDaniels as my head coach in Denver, and I had to tell those guys I had the Patriot way, and they told me I didn't. But I'm like, look, I understand, I get it. If you go 11 personnel, you go 11 personnel for most teams. Like, hey, 11 personnel. We got Brandon Marshall, Eddie Royal, we got Tony Scheffler, we got Brandon Stokely, and we got a running back. That's it. In that offense, we're gonna go 11 personnel, but it could be Army, it could be Navy. There's different type of personnel, different type of people coming in. Then you go Tricks, you go Trey, you go Trips, you go Stack. You can go so many different things, and that's what makes the Josh McDaniels offense so sophisticated, and that's why he felt like he struggled after COVID, because they kept going, and he was still stuck in week 2, week 3.
And just from the outside looking in, it looked like the other reason he struggled post-COVID is it looked like it was painful to throw the ball down the field. That Texans play notwithstanding. But Brandon, you're absolutely right about Washington. The point I'm making is, for instance, Chicago needs a quarterback. If Cam looks the exact same during the offseason for New England as he would for Chicago, I think the benefit